Dad spent his last weeks in this room, machines breathing for him, while I sat in the hallway scrolling my phone, too afraid to ask how much time we had left. I told myself I was just tired from work, that I would talk to him properly tomorrow, as if tomorrow was something life was obligated to keep giving us. Tomorrow never came, and a week later I was standing in front of a framed picture of Dad, pretending to be composed while my whole chest felt hollow and unfinished. After the funeral, I brought home a cardboard box labeled Dad's Things, the kind of box that makes real life feel like a scene from someone else's sad movie. For days I could not open it, but one quiet evening I finally lifted the flaps with shaking hands, not knowing that everything I thought about him was about to change. Inside were his glasses, his old watch with a scratched face, a cheap pen, and one small dark blue notebook that looked too personal to belong to a man so distant. The cover just said journal in fading gold letters, edges worn from years of being opened and closed by hands I never saw tremble when I was growing up. I sat at the kitchen table, turned on the little lamp we never use, opened the journal to the first page, and suddenly felt like I was eavesdropping on my own father. The first entries were from years back, neat handwriting, simple notes about work, blood pressure, the weather, nothing that would justify the ache building quietly behind my ribs. As I flipped through, the handwriting grew shakier, the lines more crowded, and I started to see a word repeating itself between the sentences, like a heartbeat slipping into every space. It was my name, Michael, tucked between notes about doctor visits, grocery lists, random thoughts, written over and over like a quiet prayer he did not know how to say aloud. I leaned closer, reading slowly, feeling the distance of 40 years closing page by page, as if the man I grew up resenting had been trying to reach me in ink instead of words. Suddenly, I was back in our small kitchen, a kid eating cereal before school, Dad standing in the doorway in his work clothes, already half turned away, already somewhere else in his head. I remember asking him if he would come to my school play, and he checked his watch instead of my eyes, saying we would see, which always meant probably not, maybe never. That night there was an empty chair where I wished he would sit, and I told myself it was proof he did not care, a story I kept repeating until it felt like truth. Then I looked back at the journal and found an entry from that same week, his writing crooked. My heart hurt today. Michael had a play. I stayed late at work because I was scared. I saw him sitting alone at a metal desk under harsh fluorescent lights, pretending overtime was about money, when really he was hiding from a world where fathers clap and smile easily. I walked home under orange streetlights that night, convinced I was not important to him, never knowing he was writing my name on a piece of paper in some silent office. As a teenager, I stopped waiting. I shut my door, turned up my music, convinced myself I did not need a dad who only knew how to ask about grades and bills. One night I shouted that he never cared about me, that he was just a roommate who paid for things, and he stood there like a wall, jaw tight, hands clenched, saying nothing. In the journal he wrote, Michael said I never cared. I wanted to tell him I think about him all day, but my mouth would not open. My father never taught me that language. I pictured him sitting alone after our fights, the television flickering in front of him, his eyes not really watching, replaying every word I threw like stones across the room. One page of the journal showed small circles around calendar dates with tiny notes, call Michael, talk to Michael, but most of them were crossed out with a single word beside them, maybe tomorrow. I remembered all those missed calls I let ring out, telling myself I would call him back later, as if our lives were some endless credit line we could spend carelessly. Near the middle of the journal there were pages where my name filled the margins, sometimes written 3 or 4 times in a row, like he was practicing saying it without raising his voice. When I finally moved out, I shook his hand instead of hugging him, and he said, "Take care of yourself, son," which I translated in my angry brain as, "Go live your life without me." In the journal that day he wrote, Michael left with a suitcase. I wanted to hold him like when he was small, but my arms froze. My father never hugged me either. I do not know how. Years rolled past in tiny apartments and crowded offices, birthdays marked by quick phone calls and shorter messages. two men circling each other from a distance, each one sure the other did not mind. Meanwhile, Dad sat at a small kitchen table, the same one from my childhood, making tea too weak and writing my name in that journal like a habit he never wanted to quit. He wrote about my job, my city, even looked up the weather where I lived, noting, "It is raining where Michael is today. I hope he has a good coat and a safe drive home." When his health started to fail, he wrote about hospital visits, the smell of disinfectant, the fear he tried to hide, not of dying, but of never fixing whatever had broken between us. One line hit me hard: "Do not want Michael to worry, he is busy. I will tell him when it is serious," as if stage 4 needed some kind of more dramatic label. I remembered a call at work I almost ignored, Dad on the screen, my thumb hovering over decline, until guilt made me answer with my professional voice instead of the softer one I lost as a child. He smiled when I walked into the hospital room, small and tired but proud, like my presence alone was a medal he had been waiting his whole life to finally receive. Later in the journal he wrote, "Michael came today. I wanted to say I am sorry for being quiet, but I did not want him to see me cry. Father should be strong, not leaking." The closer I got to the last pages, the more the letters shook, as if even the ink knew time was running out and hurried to get every unsaid thing onto the paper. Then came the page I cannot forget, my name written down the side again and again, some overlapping, some scratched, like he was calling for me but only the paper was listening. The sentences grew shorter: "My chest hurts, want more time. Michael, good son. I did not say it enough. Please forgive me if he ever reads this. I was scared of my own heart." By then my vision was blurry, my hand over my mouth, because the man I had sentenced as cold and uncaring was bleeding love all over these pages like a quiet river finally breaking its dam. On the last page, there were barely any sentences left, just my name written over and over, squeezed into every corner, as if he thought if he wrote it enough I might appear. I closed the journal slowly and held it against my chest, feeling years of misunderstandings pressing outward, all the myths I built about him collapsing under the weight of his shaky handwriting. That night I drove to the cemetery, the journal on the passenger seat like a second beating heart, and for the first time I was not angry on the way to see him. I knelt by his stone, placed the journal on top, and whispered. I read it. "Dad, I heard everything you never knew how to say, and I am sorry it took me this long." A tear fell before I could stop it, darkening the pale stone, and for once I did not wipe it away quickly. I let it stay there like a tiny ceremony between us. In my mind, I saw him standing in my childhood doorway, watching me sleep, all the nights I never knew about, practicing love in silence because no one ever taught him how to speak it. I saw him at that kitchen table, my teenage bedroom door closed in the background, writing my name on paper instead of knocking, because ink did not shout back or roll its eyes. When I finally walked back to the car, the horizon was just starting to glow, and for the first time in my life I felt like I had met my father, not just lived beside him. That night I opened a new notebook at my own kitchen table, wrote my children's names slowly across the first page, determined that the love I feel would not stay trapped in my throat. I wrote, "I love you more than I say, and I am trying to be braver than Dad was, so you never have to read a journal to know how I felt." 2 journals now rest side by side on my table, one full of love that arrived too late, and one just beginning. And if your name was never spoken enough, this story is for you too.